Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Snow and welcome to A Conscious Earth. Today I wanted to talk about how science is often incomplete. Now, not all science is incomplete, it depends on what part of science that we are looking at, but the part I'm talking about today is when it comes to the human body. And so, as many of you know, I have been on a quest for a number of years now to understand the human body. And what I have come to understand that in my lifetime, I'm absolutely not going to know everything that there is to know about the human body. But what I am here to do today is share with you why science is often incomplete and why I do the things I do today. And so, to give you an example of that, it was probably over 20 years ago now that I started studying health and wellness, fitness, nutrition, and many other aspects of the human body. Now, what I didn't know back then is the fact that when we are in the classroom and we are learning from textbooks, is that the information that we are learning at the time is often redundant information. And so, to give you an idea of that the science that's being studied now today and is being scientifically proven with cases being reviewed and stacked up and however it unfolds, it often takes on average between about 15 to 17 years before that information even begins to reach convention and then begins to even reach the textbooks. Now, the challenging thing about that is that by the time that information reaches textbooks, it's already become redundant because there's already new information being studied with evidence-based theories, outcomes, scientific experiments, whatever the situation might be. And so all these years ago, I was someone who used to teach my clients that it was okay to eat a high protein, high fat diet because that's how I had studied. That was in my education. I used to do that too. I was an elite athlete, so I would not only carb load before a competition, but I would also be eating high protein as well. And the other thing is, even though I ate fruit, I didn't eat a lot of fruit because I was always told that fruit could be detrimental to the human body. Fast forward 20 years when I've discovered parts of myself that have been chronically unwell for some time in my life, to only discover that those very things have been a very big contributor to my health. And so it was actually my integrative doctor that set me straight in terms of the high protein diet and the high fat diet, and sent me away with a plethora of information that's now at the forefront of science, being studied every single day, that hasn't yet reached textbooks yet. So I'm now someone who predominantly eats plant-based rather than eating high quantities of protein or high fat diets. That's just to give you one example, because the research is in a very different place today than it was 20 years ago. So as the research evolves, I evolve, but I want to be at the forefront of that evolvement as it's happening. I don't want the information from 20 years ago. It's good to know as a comparison as to where things were at back then, but what I want to know is what's unfolding in the world of science today. Now, to give you another example of this, and I really love this story, and it's because it's all around the DNA and the human body. Now, for a long time, science used to believe that our DNA, so you've got a single cell, and inside the cell you've got the nucleus. Now, scientists used to believe that our genetic cells with the nucleus, they used to think that the nucleus was the brain of our genetic cells. And what they actually discovered many, many years later was that they were incorrect, because what they learned is that a genetic cell can actually live and survive in the human body without the nucleus. So they realized they were incorrect. When they were able to study the actual double helix of a genetic cell, so the double helix is it's like a spiral. It's like a spiral shaped DNA. I don't have a picture here to show you what that looks like, but go and research the double helix if you don't know what it looks like. But the double helix is our genetic coding. It's what's in our DNA. And so for many years, what science was doing, they were they were looking at the DNA, but they were taking off the sleeve of the DNA, which was called the RNA, and they were throwing it out. And so to give you an example of that, let's say here that this is my DNA, my arm right here is my DNA, and there's a sleeve on it. The sleeve, is what's called the RNA. Let's take the sleeve back, and now you've got the DNA exposed. So what they were doing for 50 years or maybe more, I can't quite remember the statistics on that, is that they were studying this part of the DNA, but the RNA, the sleeve, they were taking off and throwing away. And it wasn't until science started to ask what the RNA was actually about that they realised, and when they started studying it, that the RNA actually had a very big part to do with the human body and how the human body functions, and that in fact that when the RNA, this part, the RNA, is exposed, that then the DNA makes a copy of itself to then regenerate more DNA cells. That's in short. There's a lot more around that, but that's just another example of how science didn't have all the answers. And when you think about it, science also has like a million different variables as well. And so this is where I think about it from the perspective of if you look at a pie, if you look at a family pie, and there are 8 pieces of that pie. Now you might have 1/8 of the pie, so which is just a small slice. That could be DNA, that could be our DNA. But then if you look at the rest of the pie, if you look at the other 7 pieces, that's how much you don't know about DNA. And so this is just an example to get you to start thinking about why science can be incomplete. So why is it that I have this conversation with everyone today? That's because I'm starting to question things more and more and more and more. The more I get into the human body, the more I question things. Now, at the moment, I am studying frequency and the human body. Now, to some people, that might go in one ear and out the other. It's been something I've been studying for a long time, but I'm curious about exactly how they measure all the frequencies of the human body, and I'm having trouble finding the information around it. Is it to say that I don't believe in it? I absolutely believe in it, but what I want to know is how they got to the answers that they got to in terms of measuring frequencies in the human body. But again, I just have this innate thirst for knowledge and understanding, and there's a million avenues that I can take with that. But again, like, my curiosity is nagging at me, and I want to know more about the science. There are some things when it comes to science where I'm a complete skeptic, and that is around a lot of food as well. And I come from that because I started before talking about that we are still living in a world of high protein diets, but you only have to go and look at some documentaries on Netflix to realize that even bodybuilders who are high profile athletes, they're now eating plant-based, and they're not even eating meat. Now, they're the people that are at the forefront of what's going on in science today, but the rest of convention is still living on high protein diets. And so this is why I talk about moving more into an integrative field, because I have more faith in what's unfolding in the integrative field than I do what's in convention. But that's just how I feel about it anyway. We all have our different paths in life. So I'm going to leave it here for today. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you on that, and I hope it sparked your curiosity as well. Anyway, looking forward to being back here with you all again soon, and bye for now.